Today, Luke's masterpiece. Get this, and we understand the nature of God, because today we hear truly good news. Our God is a God of mercy who seeks us out. All we need to do is present ourselves, and he brings us into his house, into his dwelling.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Collectors and sinners were all drawing near to listen to Jesus. But the Pharisees and the scribes began to complain, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." So to them he addressed this parable. What man among you, having 100 sheep and losing one of them, would not leave the 99 in the desert and go after the lost one until he finds it? And when he does find it, he sets it on his shoulders with great joy. And upon his arrival home, he calls together his friends and neighbors and says to them, "Rejoice with me, because I have found my lost sheep." I tell you, in just the same way, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous people who have no need of repentance. Or what woman, having 10 coins and losing one, would not light a lamp and sweep the house, searching carefully until she finds it? And when she does find it, she calls together her friends and neighbors and says to them, "Rejoice with me, because I have found the coin that I lost." In just the same way, I tell you, there will be rejoicing among the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Then he said, a man had 2 sons, and the younger son said to his father, "Father, give me the share of your estate that should come to me." So the father divided the property between them. After a few years, the younger son collected all of his belongings and set off to a distant country where he squandered his inheritance on a life of dissipation. When he had freely spent everything, a severe famine struck that country, and he found himself in dire need. So he hired himself out to one of the local citizens, who sent him to his farm to tend the swine. And he longed to eat his fill of the pods on which the swine fed, but nobody gave him any. Coming to his senses, he thought, "How many of my father's hired workers have more than enough food to eat? But here I am, dying from hunger. I shall get up and go to my father, and I shall say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son. Treat me as you would treat one of the hired workers.' So he got up and he went back to his father. While he was still a long way off, his father caught sight of him and was filled with compassion. He ran to his son and embraced and kissed him. His son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against you, and I have sinned against you. I have sinned against heaven, and I have sinned against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son.' But his father ordered his servants, 'Quickly bring the finest robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, and take the fatted calf and slaughter it. Then let us celebrate with a feast, because the son of mine was dead and now has come to life again. He was lost and has been found.' Then the celebration began. Now the older son had been out in the field, and on his way back, as he neared the house, he heard the sound of music and dancing. He called one of his servants and asked, 'What might this mean?' The servant said to him, 'Your brother has returned, and your father has slaughtered the fatted calf, because he is back and safe and sound.' He became angry. And when he refused to enter the house, his father came out and he pleaded with him. He said to his father in reply, 'Look, All these years I served you, and not once did I disobey your orders, yet you never gave me even a young goat to feast on with my friends. But when your son returns, who swallowed up your property with prostitutes, from him you slaughter the fatted calf. He said to him, my son, you are always with me. Everything I have is yours. But now we must celebrate and rejoice, because your brother was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found. The gospel of the Lord.
But the question is, does he go in? Should I go or should I stay? He doesn't know. And we don't know. St. Luke does not answer the question whether the older brother goes into the house or not. And the question isn't really so much for him as it is for us today, because if you're in church this morning, you're probably the older brother or sister, because we are the ones who follow the rules and follow the laws. Your brother-in-law is the one who's sleeping in this morning, but we're here. And so the question is, are we going to hear today the gospel? As I said at the beginning, this is St. Luke's masterpiece. It's called The Gospel Within the Gospel. The word gospel means good news. Now, to be good news, it has to be good, it has to be new. This is so new that it is utterly radical. And it's so radical that after 2,000 years, we still don't believe it. It's too good. It's too good. The news is just too good. It's too hard to take. We can't take it in. Well, there's two groups in Jesus' gospel today. The sinners, the publicans, the tax collectors, the ones who are caught in their hot sins, the ones who get in all kinds of trouble, the ones who are sleeping in this morning, the ones who aren't here this morning. And then there's the Pharisees and the tax collectors, and the Pharisees and the tax collectors are saying, what's wrong with this one? Why are these people attracted to him? There must have been something inside of Jesus that is attracting these people to have them come to him. And they're kind of resenting it. They're more of the school, and this is the school that almost all of us were trained in, of not so much the good news, but the old, same old, where God is in his heavens and you better watch out. Today, Moses is ticked at the people because he's made a law and they're not following the law. They're making a golden calf and they're worshiping before it, and he's about to do them in. You better watch out. You better not shout. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good. And you're in trouble. We're all in trouble. Now that's the God, believe it or not, that we grew up with. Most of us, even I think some of the young of us, see that God. So we better take care of ourselves, and we better be careful. We better do it right. So Jesus is approaching two groups. The sinners, the public sinners, and the good people, the Pharisees, who are wondering what in the world he's doing with the sinners. So he tells them a story. And notice that the story is addressed to the Pharisees, not to the public sinners. It's addressed to us. And the question really is for us today. He says to the Pharisees, which among you, if you had 100 sheep and one of them ran away, would not leave the 99 and run after the one that has run away and put him on your shoulder and carry him back? And of course the answer to that is none of them. What are you, crazy? I got 99 sheep here that are obedient and following the law, and they're doing what I'm asking. I got one goofus sheep out there running away. If he gets caught and hurt, I'm sorry. I better take care of the 99. You know, the bird in the hand is better than the ones in the bush, so I'm taking care of what So nobody would do that. But he comes back, he's got the sheep on his shoulders, he's rejoicing, he has a party. And then he says, well, what woman who has 10 coins, now these coins are nickels, they're worth about a nickel, and loses one coin, one nickel, and she sweeps the house and cleans the house until she finds the nickel, and she comes up, she goes, I found the nickel, let's have a party. So she invites her friends and spends $50 on a luncheon. Now the Italians have a word for this. It's called pazzo. It means goofy, crazy. The woman is pazzo. Well, St. Catherine of Siena describes God as pazzo d'amore, crazy in love. Pazzo d'amore. God is this crazy, beautiful, wonderful person who seeks us out, goes after the lost, isn't happy till everybody's inside the house. He wants everybody, not just the righteous, he wants everybody in the house. And so he's inviting the lost. And, well, then he tells a story, the story of two brothers. One really good brother, and he's a good guy. He has worked for his father all of his life. He's a good guy. And then we got this ne'er-do-well. And the ne'er-do-well is the younger brother, and the younger brother comes up to his father and he says, "Father, drop dead." He's saying, you get your inheritance after you're dead. And so he's saying, I want my inheritance. I want it now. He has no use for his father whatsoever. And what does the father do? He doesn't fight him. He gives it to him. He knows that he has to learn by falling. We never learn until we fall. So he sends the kid out, and of course the kid is goofy himself, and he spends the money and he's hungry and he's starving, and he says, "Oh, if I could just be one of my father's servants, I know I'll never get back in the house again. I'll never get back in the house again, but if I can live in the outhouses, the outsides, and at least I'll be fed. His servants are taken much better care of." And so he practices his little speech, "Oh, Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you," and he starts back. Now, this is the amazing part. Here's the old man. And the old man sees his son at a distance. Now, it is unseemly for an ancient Israelite to run towards his son. The son's got to come back to him, get on his knees, and beg for mercy. He's not doing that. As a matter of fact, he's running after the kid. We've got a God. And this is the reason it's so new and so radical. Who initiates? We think that we have to search for God. No. God's searching for us. He wants us. He doesn't want anything lost. He wants everybody in his house. So he runs and he comes and he puts his arms around his son, and the son starts his little speech, "I've sinned against it." He says, "Forget it." Doesn't even ask for the forgiveness part. He's already forgiven. He says, "Put a ring on his finger and bells on his toes and kill the fatted calf and have a party. Come unto the house." And the party begins. It's an incredible party, and everybody is celebrating, except for one. His older brother. He's out in the field. And he's out in the field because he's working for his father. He's a good guy. He said, "What's all the noise?" He says, "Well, your brother came home, and your father has killed the fatted calf, and he's got him back safe and sound, and so he wants to have a celebration." And he goes ballistic. "I'm not going in. I'm not going in." I once used to be a lifeguard at St. Petronell's Parish, and one day a little kid came in, and he was all excited. He put his swimming suit on, and he went upstairs, and he began swimming away, and his littler brother came in, and he says, "Did you see somebody up here?" Yeah. I says, "Yeah." He says, "Did he look like my brother?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Where is he?" He said, "Upstairs swimming." He says, "Oh, I'm so mad. I'm so mad. I'm going to punish him." I says, "How are you going to punish him?" He says, "I'm not going up. I'll stay down here." I says, "Oh, good. You want to be miserable?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Knock yourself out." That's the older brother. Of course, he's got a legitimate reason to complain. Why? Because his brother has spent all of his inheritance and all of it, and he's screwed everything up. And so the father comes out. And this is an amazing part, that the father is begging him to come inside the house. Now, here's the thing about being in the house. Being in the house is a metaphor for the kingdom, for heaven. When you're home, E.T. go home, there's something about home. When you're home with your family who loves you without condition, you're safe. You can grow and you can thrive and be. So the house is this wonderful symbol of unity, of peace, of life. And the father is begging him to come inside the house. He's begging him to come inside. And of course, the older brother gives a speech. He says, "No, I have slaved for you. Obviously, he doesn't even see himself as a son, but as a servant. "I've slaved for you all of my life, and you don't even give me a kid goat to celebrate with my friends." And the father says this incredible thing. Look it, and I want every one of you to hear this. "Everything I have is yours. God is holding nothing back from you. Nothing back from you. Nothing. But the other one, this other son of mine, was dead and has come back to life. And so I beg you to come in. I beg you to come in. Now, we don't know whether he comes in or not. Why? Because it's too good to be true. We can deal with the God who has strict justice. You screw up, you're going to hell. We can't deal with the God who says, I love you, I'll forgive you. It's too much. It's too much. It's too generous. It's too forgiving. It's just too much. God's too good. You've heard the saying, it's too good to be true. Well, this is too good, and it's true. God's will is universal salvation for the whole world. Well, not just the righteous and the saved and those who are perfect, but for everyone. We don't know if he went into the house or not, but he was invited. Many of us find ourselves locked out of the house of God because of our attitudes towards those people. Those people. And we cut off our nose to spite our face. So the question for all of us today is, should I go or should I stay?